On October 28, 2025, Anchorage fell silent. The roar of jet engines at Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport stopped abruptly. The airport, a vital artery for Alaska, was completely shut down, with no timeline for reopening. Thousands of travelers were stranded, and critical supply chains were instantly severed. For many Alaskans, this was more than an inconvenience. It was a direct threat to their way of life. Many communities, unreachable by road, rely solely on aircraft for food, medicine, and mail. The closure of ANC, which handles millions of tons of cargo annually, cut off this essential lifeline. The economic and social impacts were immediate and severe, creating a sense of isolation and uncertainty. Anchorage is one of the world's busiest cargo hubs, serving as a crucial link between Asia and North America. Major logistics companies like FedEx and UPS operate massive facilities here, so the shutdown disrupted global supply chains overnight. Packages and goods destined for locations worldwide were suddenly grounded. The world watched, waiting to understand what could bring such a critical piece of infrastructure to its knees. As hours turned into days, the lack of clear information fueled public anxiety. Officials released only a brief, cryptic statement, a critical infrastructure failure on the airport's primary runways. Speculation ran rampant. Was it a security threat, a natural disaster, or a catastrophic technical failure? For Alaskans and the global logistics industry, the silence from authorities was as unsettling as the silence from the skies. The story of what really happened at ANC began to unfold not with a bang, but with a slow, deliberate release of facts. Alaska's lifeline had been severed, and the world was about to learn why. The airport closure triggered controlled chaos. Inside ANC, thousands of passengers were stranded, departure boards reading "only canceled." Hotels filled instantly, rental cars vanished, and many had no choice but to wait for news. The human cost was visible. Families, business travelers, and residents desperate to get home. Alaska's fishing industry faced disaster as tons of fresh seafood risked spoiling without air freight. Small businesses relying on daily deliveries saw operations grind to a halt, costing the state millions each day. Remote villages, dependent on air for medical supplies, faced a looming public health crisis. State officials scrambled to reroute critical shipments through smaller airports and the Coast Guard. The situation exposed the fragility of healthcare and supply chains in Alaska's vast, challenging geography. Yet, as the crisis deepened, Alaskans rallied, opening homes, churches, and community centers to stranded travelers. Social media groups coordinated rides and shared information. The authorities worked to address the infrastructure failure, but it was the people of Alaska who embodied resilience. They faced the crisis with determination, helping one another through uncertainty. The frontier spirit was alive, even as the state stood still. To grasp the impact of ANC's closure, you must understand Alaska's aviation history. Airplanes are a necessity here, not a luxury. Early bush pilots connected isolated communities, forging aviation into Alaska's backbone. Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport began as a military base in Wawawatu, then became a civilian hub, perfectly positioned between Asia and North America. By the 1960s, Anchorage was the crossroads of the world. Today, Alaska has more pilots and aircraft per capita than any other state, with over 700 registered airports and airstrips. Over 80% of Alaskan communities rely on air travel year-round, all connected through ANC. When the airport shut down, it wasn't just Anchorage that was cut off, it was hundreds of communities. Before the shutdown, ANC was the second busiest cargo airport in the US and fourth in the world. Its efficiency made it a linchpin of the global economy. The closure was a stark lesson in how interconnected and vulnerable our world has become. One failure in a remote corner can ripple across the globe. In the hours after the shutdown, information was tightly controlled. The FAA's first statement was brief. All 3 runways closed due to surface and subsurface instability. Safety was the priority, and a temporary flight restriction was issued. A joint press conference revealed the cause. Overnight inspections found undulations and fissures on the main runway, with instability deep beneath the surface. Charts showed sections of runway had sunk by up to 14 inches in hours. creating a deadly hazard for landing aircraft. Officials made it clear the closure was a necessary precaution, not an overreaction. Homeland Security ruled out terrorism, and the National Weather Service found no extreme weather to blame. The focus shifted to a complex engineering and geotechnical failure. The narrative was clear. This was a battle against geology, not a security threat. The public was urged to trust the science as the investigation continued. Engineers and geologists quickly zeroed in on permafrost subsidence as the culprit. Much of Anchorage sits atop discontinuous permafrost, frozen ground interspersed with thawed soil. The autumn of 2025 was unusually warm, and blocked drainage culverts beneath the runways trapped meltwater. This created a feedback loop, thawing permafrost, pooling water, and accelerated ground instability. The immense weight of the runways and landing aircraft caused weakened sections to collapse and sink. Thermal imaging and core samples confirmed hotspots and saturated silt beneath the runways. The USGS report concluded, this was the result of years of gradual environmental change and a neglected drainage system. The airport's marvel of engineering was undone by a slow, silent force, climate change and a clogged pipe. The crisis was not a single event, but the culmination of overlooked vulnerabilities. Alaska's infrastructure had met its match in a warming world. The lesson was clear. Nature always finds a way. In the information vacuum, rumors flourished. Some blamed an earthquake, but the Alaska Earthquake Center found no seismic activity. Others suspected sabotage, but the FBI and Homeland Security found no evidence of foul play. Volcanic eruption? The Alaska Volcano Observatory reported all volcanoes at normal status. No ash, no eruptions. Construction flaws? Material reports from the last resurfacing met all federal standards. The real culprit was a neglected drainage system and thawing permafrost, not faulty construction. Authorities methodically debunked each rumor, presenting facts and evidence. By maintaining transparency, they preserved public trust during a time of high anxiety. The response was grounded in science, not speculation. The truth was less dramatic, but far more sobering. Alaska's crisis was a warning for all. Infrastructure can fail quietly, with devastating consequences. With the cause identified, the focus shifted to fixing the problem fast. Engineers deployed thermosiphons, devices that extract heat from the soil to keep permafrost frozen. Hundreds were installed around and under the runways. Meanwhile, attention turned to runway 1533, less damaged than the others. Crews excavated unstable soil, replaced it with gravel, and laid new asphalt, a temporary but robust fix. Over 200 workers labored around the clock, floodlights blazing through the Alaskan night. Specialized equipment was flown in, and the effort became a massive public-private partnership. After 10 days, runway 1533 was certified safe for limited operations. The first plane to land was a military cargo jet, followed by a commercial passenger flight. Relief swept the state. The lifeline, though fragile, was restored. The crisis was far from over, but hope had returned. Alaska was reconnected to the world. The response to the Anchorage closure was a masterclass in coordination. An emergency operations center united state, federal, and military agencies. Daily briefings kept the public informed and calm. With ANC offline, the military and Fairbanks International Airport became critical cargo hubs. Goods were flown to Fairbanks, then trucked down the park's highway to Anchorage. Temporary shelters housed stranded passengers, and airlines rebooked flights or chartered buses north. The state declared an economic disaster, unlocking emergency funds and loans for small businesses. The seafood industry found alternative cold storage and explored shipping by sea. These measures couldn't erase the losses, but they provided a vital safety net. The focus remained on people, ensuring no one was left behind. Alaska's resilience was tested, and it held strong. The 2025 Alaska airport shutdown is a wake-up call for infrastructure everywhere. The failure was years in the making. Gradual environmental change and deferred maintenance collided. Preventative maintenance and climate adaptation must become the new standard. Alaska's reliance on a single airport exposed a dangerous vulnerability. Upgrading regional airports and diversifying supply routes are now urgent priorities. For global logistics, the lesson is clear. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Technology will be key. Real-time monitoring and AI-powered predictive maintenance can catch problems early. Investing in smart infrastructure is no longer optional. As the climate changes, are we ready to protect our lifelines? The next crisis may be just beneath the surface. Will we be prepared?